Welcome back to the newsroom. It's time now for Focus. After days of protests against him, Hosni Mubarak says he will step down as Egyptian president later this year. It sparks a question whether that'll be enough for those who have been in the streets during the Egyptian uprising. But it's also time to be looking at who could fill the political void he'll leave behind. Over the next few minutes, we'll be taking a closer look at that issue, and we'll be honing in on the opposition group, the Muslim Brotherhood. They've been touted by experts as the possible next ruling party of Egypt. But if that's the case, should we be worried? Some label them as a radical Islamist group. Others say they're a moderate movement that respects democracy.
After more than a week of protests by the Egyptian people, the Muslim Brotherhood is making up for lost ground. The Islamist group hesitated for days before officially joining the movement. With many members arrested, their position has changed.
Over 500 brothers have been arrested since the start of this uprising. Sisters also participate. Young people, older teachers. Everyone has joined in this uprising.
It took until Friday for the Muslim Brotherhood to officially call its members onto the streets. But their latest line is for Egyptians to unite until the regime falls. As pressure on Mubarak grows, most people are not asking whether the group will play a role, but how. The Muslim Brotherhood's influence is unquestionable as the only opposition group with a coordinated network that extends from the grassroots of society to the professional classes. Analysts put its support among the population of 80 million at between 20 and 40%.
Muslim Brotherhood is a reality, a popular organization, very well known for people in every street, in every village, in every family, maybe.
The US and Israel are among the world powers which fear the demonstrations will lead to an Islamist takeover in Egypt. To reassure the international community, the Muslim Brotherhood has united with the secular opposition by backing former UN official Mohamed El-Baradei. But the concerns persist.
They are still perceived as a threat to the powers in place, a threat to the army and the economy, but also to Western powers, a support system that these kinds of regimes need to stay in power.
Experts, however, are sure the party would do well in any free election.
The care and aid they give is of good quality. It shows a certain integrity and a willingness to help others. That means they give off a strong positive image.
The Muslim Brotherhood has not yet put its hand up to lead the country, and it may very well be a job it's not seeking, at least for now.
For more now on the Muslim Brotherhood, I'm joined by Hamid Saeed. He's Director of Research at the Brookings Doha Center, and he's with us on the line from Qatar's capital. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us today, sir. First of all, what kind of policies are the Muslim Brotherhood actually promoting? There's a lot of concern, at least here in the West, but where are they on this radical, moderate continuum, so to speak?
Well, they're considered to be a relatively moderate and mainstream organization. They renounced violence decades ago. They have committed themselves to the democratic process. Again, for decades, that's been the case. They participate in elections. They form coalitions with secular groups. The list goes on. They've also become more moderate, where in the 1980s, they focused primarily on implementing Islamic law. Now that features less in their program, and they've shifted their focus to political and democratic reform. Now, we can, of course, question how sincere they are, but in terms of their public statements and programs and what they actually do on the ground, they have changed over time.
So it basically seems as if you're saying that when Western observers say they're concerned by the emergence of the Muslim Brotherhood, they are misguided.
There are legitimate concerns to have, but we shouldn't think that this is the next Iran. That's pushing it. So yes, the concerns, I think, are more about foreign policy. What would the Muslim Brotherhood do about the peace treaty with Israel? Because after all, the U.S. has a very good relationship with the most theocratic nation in the world, Saudi Arabia. So this is clearly not about women's rights or caring about Christian minorities. It's about what kind of foreign policy orientation a country has. The Brotherhood, though, has made clear it's not trying to win power. It doesn't want to play a leadership role. So I think it's likely to be part of a national unity government, but it's not going to be a dominant force. And that's why, to kind of drive this message home, they've lent their backing to Mohamed El-Baradei, who might very well be the most secular political figure in recent Egyptian history.
I want to ask you as well how strong or what kind of public backing the Muslim Brotherhood actually has in Egypt. They got around about 20% of seats in the 2005 parliamentary election, but they pulled out and boycotted last year's election. So it's a little bit difficult to gauge on that front. What is their position like at this stage, do you think?
Well, so the last reasonably competitive elections there were 2005. They did win 20%, but it's hard to really gauge what that means because they didn't contest all the seats. They only contested about 1/3 of the total seats. They did very well, obviously, but just because someone votes for the Brotherhood doesn't mean they agree with their ideology. The Brotherhood is popular for a variety of reasons. It's perceived to be less corrupt. It provides social and educational services to the Egyptian population. So it's not only Islamists who support the Brotherhood, but a wide range of people in Egyptian society.
But do you think their support could have been damaged by the fact that they didn't come out very strongly in the beginning of the protests last week? And it's only in the past few days, really, that the leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood have emerged to support the uprising. Do you think they'll be weighed down by that decision in voters' eyes?
Well, that was by design. The Brotherhood knew that if they played a prominent role in these protests, the international community would get very nervous. So they purposely downplayed their participation. They're very sensitive to international opinion. They're worried about another Algeria where the world gets very nervous and decides to undermine democracy in an Arab country out of fear of Islamist groups. So that's very much at the forefront. So even though they've played a relatively minor role in the protests so far, we're already seeing so much alarmism from the West. And I think this is precisely why the Brotherhood doesn't want to be very visible right now.
All right, Hamid Zahid, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us here at France 24. We're going to have to wrap up today's focus right here. Thanks indeed for watching. Stay with us here at France 24. We'll have more news coming your way very, very soon.